From the Oscars to the Emmys via South by Southwest, this year's award season has been steeped in its own drama over who is and who isn't calling for a ceasefire. But are celebrities, artists and influencers doing enough with their massive platforms to oppose the onslaught on Gaza? I'm Myriam, Francois, and this is The Stream.
Mark Ruffalo, how do we get other actors to support?
They're doing it tonight. There's so many people wearing the Artists for Ceasefire pin.
I applaud Billy and Phineas for using this big moment on the red carpet to show their compassion and to stand up for what they believe in.
Sorry to ruin anyone's celebrity worship party, but really, you want a cookie because you wore a pin? She hasn't said this entire time. We are in month 5 of the genocide. She hasn't put anything on Instagram. She hasn't made any statements. And then she shows up to this self-indulgent elite glad-handing party where they just give each other awards and tell each other how amazing they all are. And people are falling all over themselves because she wore a pin in which she didn't even say anything about it. Why is the bar on the floor when it comes to celebrities?
I ask myself, what happened? What happened to our humanity? Where is our heart in this moment? What happened to our voices? Where are the artists? Where are the poets? Where are the writers? Where are the directors, the actors?
A number of celebrities have paid a heavy price for speaking out on the Israeli assault on Gaza. Singer Dua Lipa, as well as Bella and Gigi Hadid, have been labelled the new Hamas influencer brigades. But even those who stayed silent have faced consequences, including backlash on social media. So are we expecting too much of celebrities, artists and influencers? Or should they be doing more to use their platforms to take a stand? To explore this, I'm joined by a Hollywood film and TV writer and director, Palestinian American Rolla Selbak in Los Angeles, and Palestinian American content creators, Yara Azzam from Totowa, New Jersey, and Anyssa Mahmoud from Seattle, Washington. Welcome to you all. Thank you so much for being here. Rolla, I would love to kick off with you to talk about really the pressure that exists in Hollywood today. You've spoken out in the past about being the only voice and the difficulties of being the only voice in the room. So as a filmmaker, let me start by asking you, how difficult is it for you to be the only voice in your community, if you are, of course?
I think within my own community, I am certainly not the only voice. I mean, we have just an amazing swell of people speaking up around the world, from all corners of the world. So that's been really beautiful. But within Hollywood itself, it certainly does feel sometimes like I am the only voice in the room, and that I am the only Palestinian voice in the room. So that is definitely felt. And how do I handle it? I mean, to be very honest, I feel like it is my absolute, not just duty, but a privilege to encourage others to speak up and to really, really use my voice within the system to change the system.
And you mentioned there that there are people within the filmmaking community speaking up. Do you think enough celebrities and public figures are using their platforms to speak up? Do you feel emboldened by them, by who already is doing that?
Absolutely not. I do not feel emboldened by silence. It is something that has been, I will say something about silence. It might seem like the safe route, specifically for celebrities and for people with platforms who are afraid to lose, I don't know, their brand deals or whatever. It may seem the safe route, but it is not neutral. The silence is not neutral. It is aggressive, it is violent, it is devastating, and it is deadly.
And is there pressure, do you think, these days on celebrities to speak up on Gaza?
I think there is more and more pressure, absolutely. And again, it comes from social media. It really, really does. That is the platform where people are able to hold truth to power and are able to really connect with or hold celebrities or influencers or whatever they want to call themselves to account. And you are seeing that pressure rise and rise. And from that clip that you just showed, people are smart. People are attuned to when someone is being real and is really using their voice for truth versus just performative. People are attuned to this now. We understand what is the difference between performance and true allyship and true speaking out for truth.
Yara, speaking up on Gaza has been described as the last taboo in Hollywood. Do you think that is still the case today?
I do think that it might still be the case today. A lot of people are hesitant to speak up, but I do think that a lot more people are speaking up now more than before. But there's also some celebrities that don't speak up. For instance, Selena Gomez had put a story up saying that she doesn't think that a social media post will make a difference. And in that sense, I didn't think that that was the right move. Having hundreds of millions of followers saying something like that can make people think that their voice doesn't matter, when, as Rolla said, that in this case, silence is violence, and it's not taking a neutral stance. And at this point, people's lives are at stake. So I do think that anyone that has a platform that claims to care for the lives of people and for humanity should be speaking up, no matter where they're from or what they believe.
And I want to ask you, Anyssa, about why some people aren't speaking up or are sort of doing maybe more performative forms of solidarity. Why do you think that might be?
I think people don't speak up because they feel like they either don't have to, or I think a lot of times celebrities and influencers in general like to infantilize themselves and act as if they don't have the same access to information and are scared to spread misinformation and whatnot. When in reality, especially in America, we all have the same access to information. And I also think a lot of celebrities in particular do not speak up because they feel as if they are going to get ostracized within the Hollywood community and they're going to miss out on opportunities to get money. And I think at the end of the day, it is really about money, which I think is incredibly disappointing when especially this is about like people's lives.
Well, on the subject of penalties, which some artists and celebrities fear might impact them speaking up, this is actor Michael Rappaport seemingly threatening those who don't support Israel with a loss of funding.
I promise you, it's being discussed. We're paying attention to who's being anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, or not saying anything at all. I promise you. We see. I'm the enigma. A lot of Jewish people seem nice. We seem like we're suckers. Seem like you could kind of convince us. Trust me. Don't come around. 6 months, 8 months, 2 years. We're remembering. We're paying attention.
Rolla, I want to ask you, is this a type of pressure which you recognize?
I will say there's absolute pressure, and I want to talk about it. I will say I don't feel any pressure from Michael Rappaport. Certainly not. But I want everyone to notice Michael Rappaport still, is gainfully employed. No one dropped him. He is totally fine. In fact, his fiery brand is, probably even doing better than ever before. But people who are not doing better than ever before are people like Mahad Dakhil, who was a top agent at CAA, who, got stripped of her board position, got demoted. And if it wasn't for Tom Cruise, coming, who she represents, she probably would have been fired simply for saying that what is happening is a genocide. You have people like Susan Sarandon dropped by UTA. You have people like Melissa Barrera, who was fired from Scream 7, the movie. And the list goes on and on. And if I may say, for me, myself, I got a phone call from my agents, the same as Mahad Dakhil's agency. It was my agency as well. And on last Monday, they called me and they informed me that they are dropping me as well. Now, the reasons that they gave were, market situations. For me personally, it's hard for me not to feel that the way I speak out about Palestine didn't have at least some influence on their decision to drop me. So the pressure is very real. The consequences are very real. But I will say that just as much as there are, consequences, negative things to happening to people who are speaking up, there are also a swell of people who are supporting. I am talking to a talent agency right now that's extremely interested in exactly what I have to say. You have Film Workers for Palestine, who are a collective of artists within Hollywood. The reason why the Oscars started late was because of Film Workers for Palestine, because they blocked, the whole traffic for people going to the Oscars. So there is I think there is an increasing voice within Hollywood, and it is very amazing to see, but there are actual definite consequences. And for me, myself, I think that I am totally okay with that.
Well, on that point, here's a tweet from a filmmaker, Dan Marcus, on that speech at the Oscars, where he said, if you watch Jonathan Glazer's Oscar speech, in his hands were shaking. And they were shaking because it takes courage to speak truth to power, especially when he knew his words could and likely would be met with backlash. Anyssa, I want to ask you about this backlash. Is there a form of cancel culture, do you think, that we're observing in Hollywood and beyond?
I think 100% that is what we're seeing, especially with Jonathan Glazer's speech. I think it was about 450, I believe, people in Hollywood Zionists, right? That signed, I think it was like a letter condemning Jonathan Glazer. And if we look at what he said, he did not say anything that was that out there or crazy, right? He just said, I refute my Jewishness and the Holocaust be hijacked by an occupation and conflict for so many innocent people. And so he really didn't say anything that was, when I first heard about it, I thought he said something way more about we need to end the occupation. This is a genocide happening to Palestinians. So then seeing the backlash that he's gotten when he is literally a Jewish man who made a film about the Holocaust, and he is now facing like defamation essentially and canceled, right, within the Hollywood space.
So what kinds of forms of solidarity are possible, do you think, given the circumstances, given the parameters that people are facing, Anyssa?
I think solidarity can show up in many different ways. I think people often like to think that solidarity can only happen in one way or another. But I think even just, for example, celebrities can be reposting on their Instagram stories from Palestinian sources, talking about what is happening in Palestine. What I've seen also on some red carpets is people wearing the Palestinian flag, which I think is incredibly important, especially when Israel's actively trying to erase Palestine as a whole. And we often get told as Palestinians that Palestine isn't real, like your ethnicity doesn't exist. So I think just speaking about Palestine, because also a great way to show solidarity is the more people that speak about Palestine, the less that Palestinians, for instance, will face repercussions and consequences for speaking out.
Yara, what do you make of some of the forms of solidarity we've seen, from pins to ceasefire badges to speeches? What do you make of the different forms that we've seen out there for now?
For instance, the ceasefire pin is like you put the ceasefire pin on, you wear it for a couple pictures, then you not a peep any other time. I don't think that that's solidarity that, I feel like we need, one, amplify Palestinian voices, two, speak up more than just wear a pin because you're scared that maybe, I don't know what the intention is. Maybe it's scared of backlash from the Palestinian community, maybe to show solidarity. But to stand with Palestinians is not to pick when it's most convenient for you. I think that we've been facing occupation for long enough and genocide for long enough, and that we need our voices to be amplified, and we need our story to be told, and we need people to stand with us. And I think, for me personally, I don't care what I lose for advocating for my people and for speaking up. And I just wish that there wasn't this whole thing of fear of losing everything just for speaking up about Palestine.
Well, let's talk about what solidarity looks like when celebs do get stuck in. Check this out.
Hunter Schafer was arrested today while protesting with Jews Voices for Peace, advocating for a ceasefire in Palestine. I don't think people understand how big this is. Hunter Schafer is one of the prime A-list Gen Z stars right now. Not only does it put the rest of her A-list co-stars and peers to shame, it shows that no matter what platform you got, it is worth risking it in order to stand on the right side of history.
Rolla, off the back of that, I want to ask you, do all forms of allyship matter?
Yes, absolutely. All forms of allyship matter, but not all forms of performative allyship matter. I first want to give a tahiyya to Hunter and just how brave she is. And it is bravery. And it is people like her who really show us what it really means to put your privilege and your celebrity on the line for one of the most profound moments in our modern history right now in the world. So yeah, I do think all forms of allyship absolutely matter. I'll give it a really good example. For instance, if you're not like Hunter, who is, on the line, for instance, Brian Cox, who's a lead actor in Succession, when he recites Rif'at al-Harir's poem and records that and posts that, that is so profound. So it doesn't just need to be, if you're not able to be on the front lines, there are so many other ways to really, really show and really amplify Palestine and Palestinian voices. And that is a beautiful way. So to Brian Cox, I also want to tip my hat.
Anyssa, I want to put to you the counter argument. Some might say, well, look, celebrities, artists, they're not experts. They don't necessarily know much about this. They're being asked to weigh in on something that they might not know very much about. Are we just expecting too much of celebrities and influencers?
I do not think that we are. I think, if anything, we are not expecting enough from them. And again, I think that there is sort of this thing that a lot of influencers and celebrities like to think that, oh, maybe I'm not educated enough, so I can't speak out about it. You do not have to be an expert on the 76-year occupation of Palestine to know that genocide is not okay. And not that, again, I don't think celebrities should be like this, focal point when it comes to talking about Palestine, but I 100% think that they can be amplifying and uplifting Palestinian voices. And I think it's everyone's responsibility, especially for Americans, when our tax dollars are directly funding this genocide and the U.S. is an active participant in the genocide of Palestinians, that every single person, I believe, fully needs to speak up. And they have I just think that everyone has to.
Rolla, let me pick that question back up. So the entertainment industry has experienced a number of reckonings over the last few years, the writers' strikes, the Me Too movement, the BLM movement. Do you see new alliances emerging?
I would love to say that I do. I currently don't. I just want to be very severely honest. I still think that there are just not enough courageous, brave voices. But I do hope that is the case within Hollywood. But to be very honest with you, I do think that is the case within the world, just not within Hollywood. I mean, you see, just the protests. We've never seen protests like this in modern history. Just people from all walks of life, from all parts of the world, showing up for Palestine. So I think in this case, Hollywood is actually going to be the one that's going to be completely out of touch with humanity and with people if they keep going like this.
And let me ask you, Yara, do you think that's impacting their followers, their supporters? Do you think there's going to be a sort of reckoning in terms of the fan base for some of these people who aren't speaking out?
100%. I think that, for instance, when Selena Gomez posted, again, I'm mentioning Selena Gomez, when she had posted that she doesn't think a social media post matters, and then her reasoning to not posting was more about herself than about other people. A lot of the Palestinians stopped supporting her. A lot of people weren't standing with her. For instance, Taylor Swift had a song that was trending on TikTok that people were using, From the River to the Sea, and You'll Never Find Another Like Me, where Israelis or Zionists were just singing to that song and dancing and saying that we'll never find another like them. And Taylor Swift did not speak up about any of it. So in that sense that and it's not only Palestinians, it's not only Muslims, it's not only Arabs, anyone that is pro-Palestine, which is now, I feel like, is more than ever, people are canceling them, quote unquote, or unfollowing them or not supporting. And that goes for Selena Gomez in terms of Rare Beauty, even her company, I'm boycotting because, again, we don't agree with her stance.
So I want to talk about the emergence of these new spaces, and this year's South by Southwest Festival billed as a convergence of tech, film, music, education and culture, and of course among the most prominent entertainment festivals in America. saw artists withdraw en masse in an effort to show solidarity with the people of Gaza.
When we started this campaign, we were not anticipating mass boycotts. We just wanted to work together with the musicians, knowing that their cultural labor is what South by kind of profits off of and markets itself on. And the artists took it upon themselves to say, no, I can do you one better. But if it had only been, when it started, it was just a few. And so there weren't really headlines about it because no one's going to really pay attention when 5, 6, maybe a dozen artists drop out. But as the numbers kept growing, we reached, I want to say 117. I don't remember the exact number. And it's still growing as we find out people afterwards. But South by Southwest publicly acknowledged that they had about 2,000 acts. And so we removed about 5% through the boycott, which is not insignificant. And so it really only worked because there was that mass action kind of aspect to it, where individually, we're not really making a statement by boycotting, but doing it together, doing it and tying it directly to the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement led by Palestinian society, the bigger impact we're able to make. And so at the Oscars, you know, if a few people wear pins, it's not nothing. I would rather see them wear the pins than not. But what I'd really like to see is people say en masse, I'm not going.
Rolla, you're a South by Southwest alum yourself. Do you think there is this emergence of new alternative spaces that are divesting from Israel? Are you observing them?
Yes, 100%. I absolutely do. And I think it is inevitable. I think I hearkened back a second ago about how Hollywood is becoming more and more out of touch with the people and with humanity in general. And I think what you see, even within social media, is people are hungry for real stories. They're hungry for truth. And what you're going to see, I believe, is exactly what you said, is this rise in, kind of outside the system spaces where people can actually hear real, true stories. And I do think that is currently led by the hunger for Palestinian stories. So I absolutely think so.
And Anyssa, I want to ask you about the forms of solidarity that you would like to see going forward. We are, of course, 6 months in now to these horrors. You know, if people can use their platforms, what would you like to see them doing with them?
Again, I think reposting on their social medias from Palestinian sources and from reliable and accurate sources is incredibly important. And I think if I go down the route of influencers, I think they have an incredible opportunity to fit Palestine into their niche as to why they are influencers and why they have large followings. And I've seen this before with influencers doing a makeup look that is Palestine themed, or cooking Palestinian food, or even like learning how to do tatreez in solidarity with Palestinians. So I think there is a way for every single person to speak up about Palestine and figure out what works best for them. And again, I think just saying genocide is bad and this needs to end, bare minimum, is what people should be doing.
Rolla, I want to ask you about these alternative centers of power. Of course, Tyler Perry now runs one of the largest, if not the largest, film production studio in the United States. You know, are we going to see the emergence of these new centers of power in the arts which refuse to bow to financial constraints? And is that something that you are part of, that you're part of developing, seeing? And how can others foster it?
Yeah, absolutely. I am seeing it. And by the way, I want to say, I specifically see it specifically within Black spaces in Hollywood. And I want to give reverence to that. Black America leads the way a lot of the times when it comes to, to fight for human rights, for speaking out to human rights, and for really changing the system. So I want to give big reverence to the solidarity that the Black community and the Black artist community has been giving the Palestinian movement. That's number one. Number two, I myself actually was inspired by what's been happening, and I created an initiative specifically for exactly what you're talking about, It's called the Safina Filmmaker Project. And it's an initiative specifically to raise Palestinian voices and projects through creative mentorship.
So resistance through alternative storytelling and alternative bases of power within the arts. Well, ladies, on that note, I'm going to say a big thank you to Rolla, Yara and Anyssa. Thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, thank you all for watching. Remember, we want to hear from you. Stay in touch online, on social media, and send us your questions and suggestions using the hashtag or the handle AJStream. Take care, and I'll see you soon.